My new book, The Craft Brewery Cookbook, is available now for pre-order online wherever you get your books. Packed with recipes and stories from some of the best breweries in the country, this cookbook has all of your beer and food pairing needs covered in fresh and inventive ways. Published by Princeton Architectural Press, it releases on May 10th. So pre-order now the Craft Brewery Cookbook wherever books are sold. Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl. M. Sauter has a new book out called Hooray for Craft Beer. And we're going to be talking about that, visual education, travel, and baseball. But first, a reminder to check out beeredge.com to sign up for the newsletter, to catch up with the Beer Edge podcast, and to check out our merch page, which is filled with This Week in Rauk Beer gear, as well as Defend Pilsner mugs. And we're able to bring you this show each week, thanks to the companies that want to support journalism in the beer space. And you can help us out too. Learn more by emailing sponsor@beeredge.com. And speaking of that, this episode is brought to you by Cigar City Brewing. Native to the Basque region of Spain, the game of Hooray involves players launching a ball from a curved mitt in an attempt to outsmart and outmaneuver their opponents on a court called a fronton. Native to Tampa, Florida, Hooray IPA is a bold, citrusy, and balanced India Pale Ale that involves 6 different hop varietals used generously in a 7.5% ABV beer. While the number of frontons in the brewery's home state has dropped since the sport's peak in the mid-1980s, Cigar City Brewing pays homage to the sport and the dedicated players and the patrons who keep this Florida tradition alive with its flagship ale. Look for notes of orange peel, clementine, and light caramel to share the story and sunshine of Florida with beer lovers across the globe. Hooray IPA. Learn more at cigarcitybrewing.com. M. Sauter is a cartoonist and visual beer educator who delights readers daily on her website, Pints and Panels. She's worked in breweries and has been an advocate for good beer. This week, she has a new book out. It's her second, and it's called Hooray for Craft Beer, an illustrated guide to beer published by the Brewers Publications. It's available where books are sold, and you should go and buy a copy like right now. She takes us readers on a journey through beer history and styles, and does so in an engaging way in a book that you can either read straight through or that you can pick up for just a few minutes here and there. And while the style of the book and her work might be whimsical, the material is serious and factually accurate. She works hard to make sure that what we're reading in the book not only serves entertainment purposes, but can also be used as a study guide or a learning tool. We'll talk about that, as well as her beer and life pairings, and then we'll meander around the beer world as we often do when we get together. But I started off by asking her about the book, specifically the title. Here's our conversation. I am so tickled by your new book.
Thank you.
for a variety of reasons. But the title alone, where it's just Hooray for Craft Beer and has an exclamation point in it, because I feel like my day-to-day when I'm talking to people in and around the beer space, there's sometimes excitement, but generally it's worry and frustration and just 2 years of a pandemic or competition and everything else. And there's not a lot of people that I talk to who are like, this is great. Everything is awesome. And then your book shows up and it's just reminding me that there is a lot to be excited about. And there's a lot to celebrate. And there's a lot of cool stuff out there. So that's my long-winded wind up to ask you, what are you excited about? Like, what makes you say hooray? What makes you shout and, do the happy dance when it comes to beer these days?
There's just so much to enjoy. Well, you look at
narrow it down to a few things then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then, so there's freedom of choice in beer. You can walk into a brewery. There was that person on the internet over the weekend that was like, make more Pilsners, and it was trending.
That guy got 80,000 retweets or 80,000 likes. It was Andy Crouch called me up and she's like, how did this guy break the viral code?
It was wild, and everyone but it was just like so. I got reached out by
for those who don't know. It was just a guy who was like, I'm tired of your 12 IPAs. Make me a Pilsner.
Make me a Pilsner. And hey, he's right.
Yeah.
And so I was being interviewed by someone about it, and they were asking me like, why would someone say this? And it's because there's things that aren't. I'm getting. This is a whole roundabout way to talk about what I'm happy about, and it's the depth of choice. That person is upset when they go to a brewery and they've got 10 double IPAs on. Yeah, there's no choice then. But the beer encompasses so many different flavors, alcohol strengths, ingredients, culture. I mean, that's the thing. The depth of choice is the greatest part about craft beer. You should be able to walk into a brewery for the most part, unless it's, there's breweries that are specifically doing certain things. That's not bad or good. That's good things.
Yes.
But when I work at Fox Farm in Salem, Connecticut, and we have a column for European inspired beers. We have the hoppy American stuff in the middle, and then we do sours, and then like kind of a miscellaneous things that don't really, like a porter or, coffee stout or something. And there's depth of choice, and people come in and they're like, oh, I like these beers. I like these flavors. Or people come in and be like, I don't like beer. And I'm like, yes, you do. And we're going to find, and people get really excited because hooray, there's actually a flavor that you really like that's going to resonate in beer. Beer encompasses all flavors, all strengths, all styles. And it's literally beers for everyone. That's the title of my first book. Also,
I was going to say, also available for sale where fine books are sold. Yeah.
Also with an exclamation point, because that's beer. That's the thing that makes me excited about beer. That's the thing that makes me go hooray, because I don't know another beverage in the world. Maybe like tea, or that can like really hit so many different types of flavors and kind of set the mood for so many different, weekends, parties, going to the beach, going camping. Like beer has a place at the table in almost every situation. And that's what I really love about beer.
The other thing that I like about this book is how approachable you make it. And you talked about working at the brewery and people coming in and saying, I don't like beer, which again, I'm in a bubble a lot of the time, but it is still so weird to me that in 2022, there's folks who would say that, only because they're still probably thinking of beer as one style, as a bad experience at younger age, or just overly bitter or underly bland, or, whatever it is. So much of your work centers around education, but inclusive education, not just speaking to people who already have a base knowledge. How has that evolved in the last couple of years? The way that you're speaking to, non-beer people, or I don't like beer crowd.
Well, a lot of people are visual learners, so it's really nice that it's not a huge book where it's like, oh, you don't like beer, read this really thick textbook. And they're going to go, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's visual, it's cartoon, it's simple. And that's what, my website each weekday has a brand new beer style simple. There's flavors where I work with styles. There's, food pairings. There's life pairings. Like, I'm drinking a blonde ale. What should I do with it? And then I'm like, oh, I don't know, go to the beach or something. Sure, it'll be great. And then Friday,
we're going to talk about that in a minute, but yeah.
But so I don't know anything about beer. And then you put a picture in front of my face that looks like a child drew it, because I know my strengths and weaknesses when it comes to my art. And it's definitely, I've been drawing the same way since I was 11. That's not a joke. That's true. And, it's easy for people to understand. And they go, oh, that's a mash tun. Oh, that's what a lager is. That's an ale. And if you kind of break it down, and it's very easy for them to understand, because beer is incredibly complex. There's a lot of microbiology, culinary skill, science. It can be incredibly intimidating. I know when I learn something new every day about beer, and I'm still intimidated about. So like, please let us not talk about biotransformation. I have no idea. I have read about it. I've read articles about it. I still am like, I don't get it. I kind of get it. And that's the thing is like, I'll know, I also know my own limits, where if I'm going to put out something, it's going to be accurate. There are a lot of beer books in this world that are not accurate.
Oh yeah.
And people, or they'll Google something like, what's the difference between an ale and a lager? And like, I think the top thing is wrong. Like if you Google search it. And so people are being fed like misinformation about beer. And so Pints and Panels is there to be like, oh, you don't know anything about beer. Oh, you want to learn about beer, or, I don't know a lot about beer, but I'm curious, or I don't like beer, but maybe I should. That's what Pints and Panels is for. It's easy to digest, understandable, good, clean fun. And that's what I strive for every day. Accurate information.
So you said you didn't want to talk about biotransformation, but let's talk about biotransformation.
I was like, I brought it up and I was like, crap.
I mean, it's as longtime listeners know, it's something that I'm extremely passionate about.
Wait, seriously?
No, okay. Not even a little bit. I mean, I'm passionate about it in the sense that like I admire it. But like I don't.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I was really fascinated about when I was reading about the cold IPA, because I'm a huge cold IPA fan.
The India Pale Lager.
No,
I know. I love doing that to tweak people now.
Well, because I did that. But first I was like, oh, cold IPA, it's just an IPL and people are just going to rebrand it. And then I actually did, and then when I said that out loud, people were like, no, that's wrong. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, let's do a little more research rather. And that's what the cold IPA is. It's focusing on biotransformation, whereas like yeast, still active, fruity stuff, like getting new flavors out of hops, very end of fermentation. Like, I think it's fascinating. Yeah. The science of it, like I failed science. My chemistry teacher this is serious. My chemistry teacher gave me a C+ and said, get out of my class. I just don't want to have you again. That's a true story. Cool. So yeah, cool. That's why the science stuff.
You go back to career day one of these days, and
it was my friend's mother who was like, I don't want to have you, which is it's the even funnier part. I had a chemistry tutor. I had my chemistry tutor is Bill Schufeld's sister, Bill Schufeld, who won Athletic.
From Athletic, yeah.
His sister was my chemistry, I believe. I always get their cut. I'm from a very small town, so there was a lot of like inner family things. But yeah, his sister, and she was a great tutor, but I did not listen. It just didn't sit.
Just didn't,
yeah. So yeah, the science part of beer always scares me.
You brought me down weird paths.
I know.
What I was trying to get at with biotransformation is not necessarily that, but because your work is visual, right? I was thinking about the way that I approach an article, right? I can go and talk to somebody, and if they're knowledgeable, I can take their words and put it into hopefully an intelligent article that then explains to people, what that person is trying to communicate or what the topic is trying to be about. I feel like your work is so much harder because not only are you taking, words or interviews or experiences, but now you need to detail it visually. And I know how meticulous you are about getting details right, no matter how small. And I guess the question is, how difficult is it to do visual education for relatively complex things that are often explained simply, for good or for bad?
It's not difficult because I'm a real nerd. and I like doing the research. I like, looking up, oh, okay, it's the St. Martin's Fair, 1842 in the town of Pilsen, and everyone's enjoying Joseph Groll's revolutionary new beer. What would they look like? That's fun. That was fun. Like, those are things that are fun to draw. Adding that kind of detail is interesting, and it's because I'm enjoying myself, so it's not difficult. It's fun. It's a nerdy aspect. There's minutia, yeah, that can be the science of it. Like, okay, how do I draw? The hardest thing to draw is the heavy science of it. So like alpha amylase, beta amylase, isomerization. How do you draw like one item turns into another item? Like, but you can't just like in the book, in Hooray for Craft Beer, isomerization is literally there are squares and an arrow and then there's circles because they have transformed into something else. And that's, it's very simple. It doesn't actually explain fully what those are, but you try your best to detail things that people go, oh, okay, that's the conversion of starches to sugars in the mash tun, because that's the science of beer. When you get, even like when people who are studying for, let's say they're like advanced Cicerone or like certified Cicerone, I mean, the stuff gets nitty gritty, gets difficult. And so you got to make sure you be able to get it. And I hope that Pints and Panels achieves that. I do a lot of research. That's actually my favorite part, is doing the work before the drawing and making sure that I love to, I'm a big nerd. I like to, and there's certain books that I trust that I lean heavily on. Tasting Beer by Randy Mosher is one of them. How to Brew by John Palmer is another one, where like those are books that I have deemed to be accurate, and therefore I will use them to do my own work. And I'm always very open with like, here are my sources. Here are the things that I've read. Because I think the transparency with beer, like there's certain books that you read them and you're like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Like, who told you that? And I want to make sure like, oh, you want to know where I got this from? It's from this. I bring the receipts, and that's important to my work.
No, that is the important part. But it's the striving for one, making sure that your source material is accurate, and learning along the way. But just like, I always feel like I connect with the educational stuff a lot better, because I'm looking at the details of it, and I feel like I retain information a little bit better that way. And has that been a common experience, do you think, among your readers over the years?
Oh yeah, I get people. I just started translating some of my work into Spanish with the help of a translator in Mexico, because Pints and Panels has quite a large Central and South American following. I've teamed up with was it Cerveja y Malta, the large like beer sommelier school in Blumenau in Brazil, and I give them my work for free, and I say, here, this is a good teaching tool, translate it into Portuguese. And they do, and they use it as it's really interesting and I also allow, someone just emailed me from France, and they're like, I teach beer in bars in France. How much is it to use your work? And I was like, it's free. Like, that's the thing. Because it's easy for people to understand. And easy for people to gravitate towards, even if English isn't your first language, because everyone drinks beer. I mean, for the most part. And so it's been really interesting to see how it's being used as a teaching tool. Like, it's taught at Cornell, and like UC Davis, like
so cool.
Which is, and like the university in Leuven. I've gotten emails from them being like, hey, can we? And I'm like, okay, yeah. Like, it's an honor to have visual beer education be taught by and learn and teach people so much about beer. It's very humbling and makes me very happy that even it doesn't have to be English speakers anywhere all over the world uses. Someone in China I asked if they could translate my work into Chinese, and I said yes.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's cool to see Pints and Panels, as long as they credit Pints and Panels. Like, please don't steal my work.
Yeah, don't steal the work. Especially if you're being nice and just sharing it with everybody.
Yeah, it's open. There's a visual beer education, and there's a Spanish language one as well on my website. That you want to learn about hops, you want to learn about anything, it's all free. Just take it. Like, it's there. learn about beer.
More with Sauter of Pints and Panels in just a minute. But first, thanks to this episode's sponsor, and we hope you'll give them a closer look. This episode is brought to you by Hooray IPA from Cigar City Brewing. It's a bold, citrusy, and balanced India Pale Ale that involves 6 different hop varietals used generously and in a 7.5% ABV beer. Look for notes of orange peel, clementine, and light caramel to share the story and sunshine of Florida with beer lovers across the globe. Hooray IPA. Learn more at cigarcitybrewing.com. And now, back to my conversation with Sauter, the author of the new book, Hooray for Craft Beer, which is now in stores and online. You went to school for cartooning. Did education, was that ever in the back of your mind? I mean, because I think of you as both now, as an educator, and obviously a cartoonist. But was education part of the chemistry aside in high school? Was that part of the...
No, I never wanted to be a teacher. I thought being a teacher was like, that's a really hard, like when I meet people who are like elementary school teachers or any teacher.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm always like, thank you.
Yeah. Here's a couple of pints.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry about the children.
Yeah. That's so...
But I mean, there's other ways to educate outside of the classroom. I guess I'm saying, well,
Pints and Panels started as I reviewed beer.
Yeah,
poorly.
I remember. No, not poorly.
No, because there are some reviews where I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm learning. You can watch the progression of me learning.
All right, there's got to be one in your mind that you wish you could forget of those reviews. I've mentioned it, I think before, or like I've talked about it a lot, there's a review of New England Brewing Company's Sea Hag from 2011, where I'm like, this is trash. And I didn't know it was old because I didn't know that malt, I didn't know it was oxidized. And so I was just like, this beer, why do people really like this beer? I don't understand. And I've gone to New England Brewing Company because I used to live near there. And I have apologized to everyone. That's why I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, so I re-reviewed it. And I wrote a big apology because Sea Hag is an excellent beer. It's so good. Fresh, $10 a 6-pack. It's a great, just classic American IPA. It's great. I mean, I live in Connecticut. That's a Connecticut staple. You go to a bar and you're like, I want Sea Hag. That's just a go-to. Yeah. It doesn't really make it outside of the nutmeg steak borders. No, their beers, they're New England breweries. They're moving and they're creating a much larger space. I believe. Really? Yeah. This is their third space, right? The one that they're in right now is it's behind that. I haven't been there in a decade. Yeah, they're moving to West Haven. And and Greg Radowich is their brewer. He's a sweet, nice man. They're a great company. The beers are great. The Elm City Pilsner is just it's a solid brewery. Great brewery. And but I remember tearing them a new one apparently about an old can I bought in Boston at a bottle shop. And I had I guess it was, and I was just, and I think about that a lot where it's hey, and it's actually a really good thinking about it as a good life lesson where a lot of people kind of jump to a conclusion without digging down. And it's if I had known more about the age of the beer, where it came from, then I obviously wouldn't have reviewed it that way. So before you're this stinks, maybe take a step back and examine the surroundings a little. Yeah. So that's something that's I think about. I don't review beer anymore.
Really, that's
For
beer
the
is very,
site. Yeah.
yeah, and beer is also incredibly like it's very hyper local. I found that, oh, these are these beers I like. Okay, yeah, my state can get them, but no one else can. So it's not something that I've written some reviews for like the website, the Alcohol Professor, but I usually
Mhm.
review larger brands that more
Easier to
people,
get.
yeah,
Yeah.
easier to get. So
Things
I could
that are
just,
meant to be transported and shelf stable. And yeah.
I did Hop Slam. That was the last one I reviewed, but I wanted to talk
Okay.
about how like that beer is just like going back in time. You want to taste 2006?
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Were you on the panel? We talked about this recently where on Steal This, where back in the All About Beer review panel days, Chris O'Leary was on one of the blind panels and I brought out Hop Slam. And you might have been there that night. But Chris O'Leary of Brew York, New York, had it and he goes, this just tastes like a brew pub's double IPA from 1997. And I was
That's
like,
it.
yep, that's it. Like that, you nailed it. Like between that and you calling a brown ale that it smelled like a kindly old man.
You love,
Or,
yeah.
I love that. Those are the two that stand out in my mind from those panels from all those many years ago.
Those were good times.
They were. But you're judging beer now. Like you
I
go to
do.
beer competitions. You get to go around the world and around the country and review other beers. How does drinking blind, how does being in those situations help guide your visual work?
I love judging beer. I love judging competitions blind where you've no idea what they are. There's almost I judged the GABF. I want to say it was like 2018. And there was a beer that was so good, but it wasn't true to style. And you can't find out what it was after the fact. So we almost gave it a medal just to find out what it was because it was so good. And I think the director of ops for Bells I don't remember, some like head brewer of a large regional was like, that's in what we can't do that. And we were all like, you're right, we can't. And we never found out what that beer was. And it was phenomenal. And then we're like, oh, we'll give this beer. This beer is good. We'll give this bronze, which was Widmer, which I love.
Widmer Hefeweizen,
like yeah, because it was American wheat. That was the category. Oh, the inventor. Well, the inventor of the style. Yes, bronze medal for you.
Here's a participation trophy.
You did it.
Thanks for everything, Kurt and Rob. Yeah,
proud of you. I love that was that's the fun thing about judging competitions is you have no idea whose beer it is. It doesn't come with preconceived notions. It doesn't come with, oh, I know that brewery, I don't like them. Or, oh, this brewery is amazing. They can't do, like, the bias is removed and everyone has that bias. And that's what I love about judging beer blind. When I was studying for the advanced and the master Cicerone exams, I would have a local bottle shop make blind samples for me. And then I would like write down notes. And it was just the surprise of, oh, this is what this is. Oh, like, and it was just, it's fun. It's interesting. It changes your perception of what beer is. When you don't know what it is, everything is removed. And you're there with the aroma, the flavor, how it looks. That's it. And it's just you and your thoughts. And it's fun. It's really enjoyable. I'm excited. I'm judging a fair amount of beer competitions. Not a few. I'm going to Mexico in June. I'm going to Brazil in October. I've never been to Brazil, so it's exciting. Yeah,
they got an awful lot of coffee in Brazil.
They have a lot of beer and apparently a lot of good beer. And I'm very excited about
it's an old Sinatra tune that nobody knows. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
You kids today don't appreciate the American songbook in the way that, yeah. All right. So I want to talk about beer and life pairings because I am much in the same way that people read the Times wedding section where they kind of hate read them. Like I feel like I go
Where are you going with this?
I feel like I go into your beer and life pairings like ready to be angry and to disagree. be like, that's ridiculous. Like that is the least plausible scenario to all of it. And then I read it and I'm like, all right, that's I get it. Like, I'm sure that they're lovely people, these two people that are getting married, or, that like what you've put together right there. But I feel like I go into it like beer and weather pairings. Like, okay, let's see what M did this time. And that's like, yeah, no, I agree with it.
People get very sensitive about the beer and baseball one. Was good gravy. I can't believe the Padres weren't West Coast IP, and they're so mad. Yeah. And I'm like, there are multiple right answers in beer. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
I never take them. Like, I never, people get very agitated about beer, not beer and life, but the like other, like beer and music. People were agitated about that one. Beer and sneakers. I did a collaboration. So when I don't know anything about sneakers. I just bought a pair of running sneakers actually a couple of hours ago. And they are pink, and they were the cheapest Adidas in my size. I don't know anything about sneakers. Yeah.
It's a brown shoe. Yeah,
it's brown. It's a pink shoe. It says running on it. I'm going to use it. So people who are really into that, I usually collaborate. And for the beer and weather one, I forget who I asked. It was retweeted by our local weatherman, though, who loves beer, for our local NBC affiliate, which made me very happy. But yeah, like, if someone has like, oh, I know sneakers, and so they do their pairing. Or I've done, there's someone I follow on Twitter, and they love NCAA basketball. So I was like, hey, can you come up with the pairings? And I never am like, why would you do that? It's always like, that's what they think, and that's their thought. And so I'll draw it. And that's how beer and weather was like, okay, hurricane. Hurricanes are strong. What would I want to sustain me during a hurricane / make me less scared / what's a beer that's similar to a hurricane? And I was like, okay, well, a double IPA, because that's big and bold. And so it's a lot that goes into it. So like lighter beers for beer and life pairing, I'll be like, I think of the seasonality of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can drink, beer all year round. That's no big deal. But, if I'm at the beach, what do I want? If I'm hiking, if I'm working out, if I'm this, some of them are like, and some of them are just like, I don't know, a Belgian double and church bells. Cause sure. Why not? Church bells are nice.
No, I get it. I feel like sometimes you have like just Post-it notes on a wall, and it's just throwing darts.
Well, so how it is I have the style, and then I have like well over 100 life pairings drawn. Okay. And I just scroll through them and I go, oh yeah, that would work. And that's how I do it. And it's not like I do meditate and think about it.
No, I'm not saying that you're being flip about any of this, although I will. But it's beer and life, like there. And I always preference it is there are no wrong answers. Like, I might disagree though, because I am looking. As you were saying this, I pulled this up, and Beer and Baseball Teams Part 3 on your website pintsandpanels.com, which went up April 21st, 2022. The brewers you pair with light lager, that makes sense. Miller Lite, it's the originator of the style. The Cardinals, American lager, that makes sense. St. Louis, Budweiser. The Royals, obviously with Kansas City and Boulevard and Tank 7. I can get behind that. There's a few others in here. Giants, the San Francisco Giants, and Steam Beer. Of course, that makes sense. The Padres and Vienna Lager. I kind of have to agree with the good people of San Diego. Like, where's the pale ale?
Well, I was thinking of like its relation to Mexico, its population. That's what I was thinking of with Vienna Lager. It was like that's what I was thinking.
I think it's a stretch.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, West Coast IPA, yeah. Is West Coast IPA also a right answer? Yes.
Yeah.
There are many right answers in beer. Right. I say that a lot, and it's Padres and Vienna Lager. Yeah, I want to drink it.
I'm not trying to stress you out. I'm just like I feel like the good people of San Diego have
they were
have
educated about that, and that's fine. They're allowed opinions. That's you know.
Yeah. Come at her, San Diego.
They already did.
Okay. Do it again.
West Coast is actually, that's maybe a better choice. You're right.
Yeah,
you know, I can change it. It was also like, Seattle's porter because it's rainy, and like, what would I want? I want a porter. That's also, you think of like, it's Vienna lager is really refreshing. It's nice and warm and dry down there. Like, I like Vienna lagers.
Yeah.
Should have been West Coast IPA, maybe.
Okay.
Can't be.
Rockies, and you're saying U.S. Pilsner. I mean, the stadium is literally down the street from Bierstadt, which is all German pils.
I was thinking of like Coors Batch 19.
All right. Oh yeah, that's the one? Is that the one where they had marketing stuff of like, hey, our basement flooded, and we found an old recipe?
I think I think it was that they're American pills, like they're like pre-prohibition.
They're pre-pro,
style.
yeah.
But
there was a marketing story behind it of something flooded, and we found 100-year-old piece of parchment with ink in this flooded basement, and we recreated this recipe for you. And it was this, sure, like that makes sense. Like let's go with that.
Yeah,
see, I started off by talking about celebrating beer and how I was excited, and I just defaulted to snarky again.
That's fine.
No, it's not. I want to be happier about things.
But beer breeds a lot of opinions.
Yes.
Sometimes those are very strong opinions. And they don't have to be strong. A lot of people like what they like. There's certain things they don't like. So it's that's the thing. Again, there's a lot of right answers.
Do you have an unpopular opinion about beer that is a hill you're willing to die on?
Oh man. I don't think so. I mean, I do generally believe that everybody likes beer, and that people who say they don't like beer just haven't found the right beer yet. Yeah. That's not really like a hill that I will, no, I mean, I just try to keep it. Pens and Panels is all about, positivity, teaching people about beer, and like celebrating beer. I remember, someone was talking about like Michael Jackson, and they were like, he celebrates beer. And I took that as kind of when he would talk about beer, he would always talk about the good for the most part. I'm sure that's not, for the most part.
I've heard stories of he was sometimes of the school of if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. And that was more devastating to a lot of brewers than him saying, this is not good. Yeah.
That's tough when someone asks if you like their beer, and that's a tough.
Yeah, I don't like being in those situations, but I will. I'll answer honestly.
Yeah, because it's important.
Yes,
it's uncomfortable, but it's important to be honest, and that's what Pines and Panels stands for: honesty, education, accuracy, and positivity. And you can be a positive, critical person. It's not gonna, it's tough, but when you judge beer and you have a beer that's not good, and you have to write the notes that hey, this isn't good, or and you could do it in a nice way though. You don't have to be rude. You can say, hey, and give instruction. That's when you judge homebrew competitions, you are required to tell someone, hey, this is the score I gave you. This is why I gave it to you. And then if hey, if your mash temperature was a little higher, hey, maybe you shouldn't use so many dark malts, and your astringency is a little high. What was your sparge temperature? That's those are really important feedback that people, are not, they're going to like it at first, but it's important to, you're helping people. You know, being critical can be helpful.
I love it. I know. I mean it. I do. It's, I think, people see criticism and they can only see the bad side in it. But if it's coming from the right place, or if it's coming from an expert or a thoughtful person or somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, an educator, it's important to listen to. You mentioned earlier that you're giving away a lot of your educational materials for folks who are asking, which I think is really nice. But you are running a small business, and I want to point out that you do sell glassware on your website, Pints and
I
Pals,
do. I have,
as well as commissions, which I know we've talked about on this show and other shows in the past. But I want to remind people that that's how you pay the bills, and they should be supporting you by doing that.
yes, thank you. Yes, I've got an online store. I do commissions. I do have a new glass coming that'll be on sale next week.
Do you like selling merch? Has this been fun for you?
I do the wrapping of glassware and the buying of the amount of paper I go through and plastic stresses me out a little, just from an environmental standpoint.
Sure.
But it's fun to, mail posters to Australia, or seeing where the things go, stickers, pins, glass. I'm shocked at how popular glassware is. That's not something that I ever thought that I would get into, but you told me to, and I listened to you, and I'm glad that I did.
I know, but everybody is buying your glassware, and I have shelves and shelves. Not really, but I have I have a whole box of This Week in Rauch beer glasses sitting here waiting for a nice home.
Someone should buy them. I love that. I drank a Doppelbock. It was not smoked, but I drank a Doppelbock out of that glass on Sunday night.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
Your pint, your hops, Lily Betcher's, my go-to up in the kitchen these days.
Nice. So, that's good. Yeah.
Look at us being nice to each other. We are friends.
I was going to say we are.
No.
It would be weird if we were not nice to each other. That would be That would be a weird friendship.
All right. I have been asking folks on the show for the last, I don't know how long now, final question. And it's based in, I don't think I did this when you and Don were on the show last year. Did I ask you the good place question?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Yeah. I think I might've started it after you and Don Tess were on the show last year. The premise is this: April and I were watching The Good Place again, which is a lovely show.
It's a great show. Lovely show.
All right. So you're familiar with it. In the final season, there's the concept of the green door. So if such a door was around on this plane of existence, and you could finish this conversation and walk through a green door and be at any pub, anywhere in the world, or any brewery with anybody that you wanted, where would you go? Who would you be with? And what would you want in your glass?
Oh, man. I
love that you don't listen to the show regularly enough to know that this question was coming.
No, I have no. Yeah, I don't.
Sorry, I don't listen to podcasts either. I host like 5 of them, and I don't listen.
I don't really.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's not you.
I'm giving you stall time so you can come up with a really good answer.
It's not you. It's me. The first place that comes to mind is my favorite bar in Brussels, which is À la Mort Subite, because it's just full of like old ladies reading the newspaper and really rough staff. And I love that, just the Jesus out of that bar, because they have Cine Blonde on draft. Mm-hmm. And because I love that Cine Blonde glass, because it's just a ripoff of the Chimay glass. And I love it. I met Chris O'Leary there from Brie. We were like, he was there. I was there. My husband was there. Matt was there. I love that bar so much. I've been there a bunch. I really enjoyed, I had a really good pub experience in Sheffield. I know I'm just like naming all the I don't know. Well,
it's just one. I mean, you can go to multiple places, but
yeah. I think I haven't been back to Belgium since 2019.
Yeah, I was there in November of 19.
I was there in February of 19. I'm going next year for my 40th birthday.
It's exciting.
Yeah, we're going to Belgium. I don't like. There's a trip that À la Mort Subite would be up there, but I think about. I was supposed to go to Bamberg in March of 2020. Obviously,
did you pander into the right crowd?
That did not happen. And I love the idea of like late March Schlenkerla I was supposed to go with a bunch of my like advanced Master Cicerone pals and then I would obviously want my husband there too, because he's in the other room and he can listen. He can hear me. But I would also love to spend time with him because I love him very much. He's a very important part of my life. He went to come into the room, but he did not. Okay.
Get Matt on the show. That's fine. It's I
love you. He's agitated.
All right. Well, I mean,
no. All right.
Yeah, we're spiraling, so I'm going to let you go in a second.
No,
but yeah.
All right. No. I want winter in Bamberg. That's what I would want at Schlenkerla. I've never been. I bet that just sounds really nice, and I want my husband there, and then I want my best friends Robin, Max, and Shane to be with me, who are my advanced Master Cicerone pals, and who I love very, very much. And that's where I want. I'm sure that I've never been to Schlenkerla. I'm assuming it's the magical fairy tale land I picture it, and I would. It is,
to go there. Yeah. I mean, it's on my bucket list as well. But
I was supposed to go, but you know, pandemic, stupid pandemic.
It's the worst.
Ruined everything. Well, no, actually, yeah. I mean, no, I wish it didn't kill all those people. That sucks. Not laughing at the death. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
I should have ended it when I said we were spiraling, but
and then I had to.
Hooray for craft beer! An illustrated guide to beer is available now where books are sold. Everybody should go and get a copy and read it, and then put it on a shelf, and then pull it off again and read it and keep
put it
coming
behind
back
the
to it time and time. Sure.
That's what I tell people. The Pints and Pails books are great for like behind the toilet. You can open it to any. You don't have to read it beginning to end. Open it to any page, and you'll learn something. So.
Thanks for being on the show this week.
Thank you for having me, John.
What is your favorite beer and life pairing? Tell me about it. You can email me. It's John Holl. That's JOHNHOLL @beeredge.com. Or you can get with me on Twitter @John_Holl. Reminder, go check out beeredge.com for our This Week in Rauk Beer and Defend Pilsner merch, and follow along on social media @TheBeerEdge. Of course, This Week in Rauk Beer is also online. The Facebook group is easy to search, and on Twitter and Instagram, it's @TWRaukBeer. We're able to bring you the show each week thanks to the companies that want to support independent journalism in the beer space. If you'd like to learn more about our surprisingly affordable rates, please reach out to sponsor @beeredge.com. And speaking of that, this episode is brought to you by Cigar City Brewing. Native to the Basque region of Spain, the game of Hooray involves players launching a ball from a curved mitt in an attempt to outsmart and outmaneuver their opponents on a court called a fronton. Native to Tampa, Florida, Hooray IPA is a bold, citrusy, and balanced India Pale Ale that involves 6 different hop varietals used generously in a 7.5% ABV beer. While the number of frontons in the brewery's home state has dropped since the sport's peak in the mid-1980s, Cigar City Brewing pays homage to the sport and the dedicated players and patrons who kept this Florida tradition alive with its flagship ale. Look for notes of orange peel, clementine, and light caramel to share the story and sunshine of Florida with beer lovers across the globe. Learn more at cigarcitybrewing.com. And also, if you're into it, my new book, The Craft Brewery Cookbook, is now available for pre-order online wherever you get your books. Packed with recipes and stories from some of the best breweries in the country, this cookbook has all of your beer and food pairing needs covered in fresh and inventive ways. Organized into chapters according to beer type, including hoppy ales, lagers and pilsners, wheat beers, and Belgian-style ales, this cookbook will help you discover each beer's style and flavor profile and how it pairs with the accompanying recipes. Published by Princeton Architectural Press, it releases on May 10th, so pre-order now wherever books are sold. Final reminder, check out the Beer Edge podcast with Andy Crouch. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday, and the BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month, so please tune in. On this show, Nate Schweber, he does the music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'm going to be back again to drink beer and to think beer.